Hello, my name is Anna Marsh, and I am a trauma-trained functional medicine nutritional therapist, and I had chronic fatigue syndrome. In my life, I had three chronic fatigue experiences. The first was as a young child of 9 years old. I had fatigue for about a year, which stopped me from going to school full time and stopped me from playing sports. I also had a low-level fatigue at the age of 24 when I moved from South Africa to London. At the time I was quite functional, but there was just this low level of fatigue that seemed to follow me around, and it actually took a really long time to overcome that, although I was able to manage my life alongside. And then my worst fatigue experience was around the age of 34, where I became chronically unwell for several years, impacting my ability to exercise, impacting my ability to work. I did work because I run my own business and I had to keep on working, but it was very sporadic, just doing hours here and there, resting in between. Some days were better, some days were worse. Some days I could go for a walk, some days I just wanted to stay in bed. So it was very up and down. I'm pleased to report now that my health is in a completely different place. I have a very successful practice. I work full time. My job is very mentally and emotionally demanding. I'm very physically active. I hike, I walk, I swim in the ocean, I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm able to see friends and socialize. I still do have energy ups and downs, I think, as we all do, but for the most part I consider myself to have a fairly good capacity for life, and I also have a lot of health habits that I have carried with me from my journey that I know I need to keep in place to keep my body, my mind, and my soul in a good place as well. So in my journey, there were 3 things that really made a big impact on the success of my recovery. Although when I became unwell, I had a lot of knowledge about nutrition and the human body and the physiology of chronic fatigue. One of the things that nobody really explained to me was the importance of pacing. And I know that might sound like such a simple concept, but we cannot out supplement and we cannot out diet our lifestyle. And so when I initially became unwell, I was in a situation where I was constantly in boom and crash cycles, and learning how to pace properly so that I wasn't constantly overextending myself was a big part of my recovery. And I always say that the initial phases of recovery are about stabilizing the body. So we stabilize the body through the routines that we have in our day-to-day life, whether those are routines about, when we wake up and when we go to bed, when we eat our meals, when we exercise, but also periods of activity and periods of rest throughout the day. And so the first step in recovery is finding stability. Because if we have a nice, stable platform, stable base, then we have something to lean into as we build up our capacity. And I would also include stabilizing the nervous system as part of the first step, which is stability. The second thing that I found particularly beneficial in my recovery was managing my blood sugar. And again, it's such a simple concept, but for me, in my journey, I had a lot of issues with regulating my blood sugar. Although I was a fairly healthy body composition and I had a fairly healthy diet, my blood sugar control was not good. And one of the things that I needed to do in my journey, which will not be the same for everyone, is actually go on a very low carbohydrate diet and do a lot of fasting. This really helped me to stabilize my body. It really helped my energy levels. It really helped with brain fog. And it really helped me to manage the inflammation in my body. As a practitioner, I don't recommend this as an approach for everyone. I don't recommend that it's something that anybody just throws themselves into. I think it is something that you need to do with patience, with structure, and with care to make sure that you're looking after your own body. And then the final thing that was really beneficial in my journey was getting to the root cause of things that were keeping my system in a state of stress, ultimately preventing a healing state. And there were quite a few things here that I needed to work on, and these were digestion. I had a lot of digestive issues that were feeding into ongoing cycles of inflammation for my body. I realized in my journey that I had been exposed to mold. I had some mold colonization, and I was overloaded with mold mycotoxins, which was impacting my ability to exercise and post-exertional malaise. And then finally, I also needed to work on my own nervous system, and I actually went on to do a 3-year training to become a somatic experiencing practitioner. And in doing so, I did a lot of work on myself and was able to get my nervous system to a very resilient place. However, for you, your variables may be completely different to mine. And that's what I always say, is that every case is different, and we need to work on what we need for our unique bodies so that we can heal in our own way. You may not have mold or parasites or gut issues, but maybe there are some ongoing infections that you need to address. Maybe there is a toxic overload that you need to address. Maybe there's an undiagnosed autoimmune condition or specific nutrient deficiencies or a malabsorption syndrome that you need to have properly explored and properly addressed. But wherever you are in your journey, my top tips would be, first of all, to allow yourself to take your time. When I first started my journey, my inner achiever just wanted to fix everything and just rush through the healing process to get well as quickly as I could. And to a certain extent, that was just my way of coping with the trauma of being so unwell. What I learned on my journey is that the fastest way to get there is slowly. And it's really important to just give yourself space. Don't take on too many things at a time. Work through things step by step. So be slow, be intentional, be methodical. Get a sense for what works for you, get a sense for what doesn't work for you, and keep layering on how you support yourself. You don't need to do it all at once. And sometimes when things don't work, it doesn't mean they don't work at all. It just means you're ready for the next layer of support. And then finally, just allow yourself time, gentleness, and a whole lot of love and compassion as you navigate what is a very, very challenging experience to go through. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope something that I have said has maybe given you some food for thought or resonated in some way, or maybe even just given you the permission to be a little bit more gentle with yourself and take things a bit more slowly. Thank you so much for listening.